Hello, welcome everybody to today's Women in Leadership panel. Now, I'm really enjoying the headsets, mainly because normally at this time of day, I'm putting in my own headphones just to soften the noise of my two boys after the school run. So this piece is quite nice. I'm Amy Grilli and I'm the co-founder of the 5 Hour Club and your host for today, where we'll be discussing how there is no perfect path when it comes to leadership for women. Now, to give you a little bit of context and the reason why this might be, I'm going to give you a quick history lesson. Now, I know we've had a few of those today, so I'll be quick. But I just wondered whether you knew that it was 100 years ago that Henry Ford introduced the 9 to 5. So it was in 1926 that the car manufacturer introduced the 40-hour work week as a way to increase productivity and well-being for his male factory workers. Now, I'm looking around the room and I don't think I see any male factory workers, yet the 9 to 5 still exists. Now, luckily, our working world has changed somewhat. Women are welcomed into the workplace. Careers are not so linear. We're able to work from home thanks to COVID. And we do have this thing called AI. I don't know if you've heard of it. But our workplaces have not been designed with these things in mind. The school day finishing at 3 p.m. is a big clue to that. Now, we talk about wanting more women in leadership, more women on boards, but their path to leadership isn't always so straightforward. It's not because of their lack of ambition, their lack of talent or capability, but it's because climbing a pipeline that was not built for them takes more energy, more resilience, and more creativity just to break into the room, let alone the skills that you need when you get there. Now, in a supportive workplace, we know that it is possible to take control of your career, and we're going to see two brilliant examples of that today. Now, I've also been learning a little bit about your day-to-day jobs as customer experience experts today, and I just want to flip that on its head a little, because I want you to imagine as we're talking that you are the customer in your own workplace. What is your experience like? Is there anything you would change to make your experience more enjoyable? Make it easier for your team to grow? Make it easier for women in your workplace to progress? So I just want you to hold on to that thought as we listen to our two brilliant panelists today who have done just that. They have navigated a workplace not necessarily designed for them, and with the help of those around them, have been able to grow into leadership roles. There may be no perfect path, but with a few small intentional changes and some creativity, it can be made possible. So introducing our two panelists today. Welcoming, first of all, we have Juliane Kappel, who is the CEO of HelloFresh DACH. And she joined HelloFresh 9 years ago when the company was still a startup and its home market, Germany, was not yet profitable. Over the years, she took on leadership roles across different business functions and entities, growing herself as a leader whilst helping to scale and transform the business. Her journey mirrors the company's evolution from scrappy startup through hypergrowth through the pandemic to today's phase of right-sizing and product-led growth. 2 years ago, she was appointed CEO of the DACH region, now leading a €500 million business and serving as the only female CEO across HelloFresh's global markets. She brings the perspective of growing into leadership, stepping out of long-standing peer group to build her own leadership team and culture, whilst being able to help shape and transform the global CEO peer group that she's now part of. So welcome, Juliane. And we also have the fabulous Irene Skrynova, who built her career from the ground up and within 7 years rose to become the CEO of a global fintech infrastructure company, Unlimit, operating across multiple continents. She leads one of the most competitive and male-dominated industries, fintech and payments, where margin pressure, regulatory complexity, and constant volatility are part of her daily reality. Her leadership has been built inside fast-moving international systems across the globe, and what makes her perspective compelling is that she speaks not only about breaking into the room, but about what happens after you get there. How power shifts, how leadership must evolve from personality to architecture, and how you build organisations that scale beyond your personal capacity. So welcome to you both. Thank you, Amy. Okay. Now, they have got so much experience, and I want to get into the nitty-gritty of that here today. But first of all, you've both been in your companies for a similar amount of time, but you've had quite different career paths to get towards CEO. Can you share what your different than your previous roles were like, and how that set you up for success, but also how that created barriers for you. Irene, do you want to start?
Yes, first of all, hello everyone. So it's a pleasure to join this particular conversation today in such an intimate setting. So yes, my background lies on two foundations, so which is CX and another one is fintech and payments. And while I'm in payments now, but I've started my way in fintech like more than a decade ago. And it started from like prime brokerage and crypto-related environments. And back in 2016 and 17, like way before crypto went mainstream for the first time. So it was like really fun and exciting times back then. And I would say that fintech and payments are by nature very competitive fields. And this is the space where companies, they compete and fight like daily for everything, like for margins, for clients, for partnerships, like for new markets. So yeah, this is indeed like the space which is like very suitable for people with, I would say, like really strong internal drive, ambitions and clarity and resilience, of course. And but I didn't just end there because it happened. I think like what is important that I realized quite early on, like what my real drivers are and what I would love to see like in the industry where I operate. And I remember myself like sitting and writing down those things like on a piece of paper, like that I would love to see like the industry that has the room for expansion, like real global scale, complex intellectual challenges, and and this spice on top, like which is an opportunity for disruption and for innovation. So this was really, really important for me, and I think like this was the key thing that helped me like to navigate further, like in the industry where I landed further. And at the same time, so there might be different approaches to career strategy, but for me, it was kind of the same understanding some things about myself that I would love to build something long term, that I prefer to be like efficient. I don't like to waste resources and time of my life. So I would really love to find like one company that matches my internal values, more or less, not even fully, but I would say like 60%. And I thought like the rest, I will navigate and shape like the way I want it to be. So, and this is kind of a thing that I would love to see like in all people that I work with. So yeah, few years ago, I was writing down the values like for my CX department. And the first one there was like CEO mindset. This is, despite the role and the position where you're working. So it's important to take responsibility and just to drive change. And so, I think I just started from the very basic client-facing position and just,
And how is it in a male sort of orientated industry, very dominant there? Was it difficult for you coming from a CX background to do that?
To be honest, I think it's kind of combination of two powerful forces here. So first one, it's all about like drive and ambitious, and it matches my internal perspective as well. So I'm really like happy when we land a big deal. So when we can expand to new markets, so it really drives and motivates me. But at the same time, so this is like B2B payments is all about relationships, and this is something that I don't know. It's very natural to the female side of our company. So this is it's full of like people who are thinking long term, who have enough, this balance and power to soften things and just to build like really lasting things. So I think it's kind of combination of these two things that makes it really great.
I think using that strength that you say, sort of being able to nurture relationships, to build all of those things as a female, it can be a really great benefit to a company, can't it? Where maybe they don't always have that perspective. Juliane, what about you? Your experience is quite different. Tell us about your journey.
Yeah, I think my path was also not very linear, and I cannot even say that I had a plan when I started off my career. So when I joined HelloFresh 9 years ago, and you said this in your introduction, it was very much in the wild startup days. And over those years, I moved across different functions. I started off in the CRM world, so the marketing part. Then I had it also a bit of the payments, but on the B2C side, so customer payments, customer service, moved into a bigger retention role, then being responsible for the product strategy and also operations, all the way to business leadership now. And what all of those roles had in common was that every role was very close to the customers. And that way I could build a very end-to-end understanding of the customer experience and also what it takes to really increase customer value and therefore increase business performance. And once then the company shifted from a growth at all costs towards a product-led, more sustainable growth, it was really that customer experience that was really valuable when it comes to leadership. And this is how ultimately I got appointed also to a leadership role, and this is what really helped me. So it was not kind of that clear trajectory, it was kind of problem solving along the way, and about what was always important for myself was learning, right? This curiosity, learning something new. And no matter what function I was in a kind of at a certain point in time, I tried to get out what I could out of that function, right? And obviously the curiosity together with the success in every role was ultimately what brought me where I am today. So it was not linear, it was just also opportunity driven. And I've often in those 9 years made myself redundant, looking for something else to learn, and then the next challenge got in front of me, and this is really what I keep doing.
Yeah, no, and it is, and I think so many women do that too, don't they? It's not that you have this clear path and lots of things get in the way along that way. You know, you might have children or all these different things that create barriers. So you have to be opportunistic and take what you can at the time. But that agility is really valuable to a company. And like you say, having that understanding of the customer on the other side is even more powerful. So both of you being able to use that is really interesting. Now, Irene, you've previously said it's not about breaking into the room, but it's about what it feels like when you get there. I'd love to hear what it felt like when you were offered the CEO role. Juliane, I'd like to start with you on that one.
3 days before I got actually offered the role, I came out of a coaching session with a very clear plan on what my next career step would look like, and this was completely different. So when my boss then came over and said, Juliane, here's the opportunity, I was saying, I appreciate that, but what's your plan B? Because I'm not going to take that opportunity, because I had a very clear, clear idea of the next step. But it turned out there was no plan B for them. So I started the conversations with the founder, because this would be my new manager, with a lot of board members, senior stakeholders, in order to better understand the expectation towards me and towards the role. And during that time, I figured out also what are my terms when it comes to the trust, when it comes to the freedom to operate, when it comes to the support needs. But when kind of the mindset shift really happened when I then stepped into the role, and I remember that very vividly when I entered the first global leadership meeting, sat down, raised my view, and then I was surrounded by all the other CEOs, the board, all the senior leaders. And of course, in theory, I thought I know what I would go into, but kind of that feeling really got me. And this is when I understood I not only need to quickly grow into that role, I also need to help shape that new peer group and that room in order for more diverse leaders to step in, so I could surround myself with a more diverse leadership group, but all kind of with me being more comfortable in this room, but also opening the room for even more kind of a diverse team, because I believe that this is then the key to success.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, just thinking about, having that sort of equal parity within boardrooms and within leadership is so key when you think about the customers that you have and who you're trying to reach out to. Being able to understand that and all of those different perspectives is so key. But it's interesting to hear you say sort of your expectation about what the reality was when you stepped into that room, and knowing that you've been appointed because of all of the qualities and the skills that you did have going. They could see that in you, but in your own sort of confidence going in there about being able to be heard and be that voice. And now I guess you're wanting to give that back to others to be able to open those doors there. I mean, what was it like for you when you were offered it? And this was relatively recently, wasn't it, that you were appointed CEO?
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, it's an interesting point about the mindset shift. And I would say that throughout the years, like for me, the mindset shift has been significant. And I would even say like seismic, because like early in your career, I think you're rewarded for being the best operator in the room. So, and even at middle management layer, so you're very hands-on, so you're very close to the team, so you like push yourself like into actually like building things, and there is a lot of you and a lot of your personal energy into everything. But probably at executive level, it kind of stops working, and it's probably, it changes when you either face like breakdown or like when you deal with hyperscale. And for me, I remember like the moment when we were like scaling like to different markets like Brazil, Mexico, APAC at the same time, and there was a lot happening like in our core regions as well. And that was the moment when I realized that like the organization can't scale through people and through personalities. It only scales like through the right system. So you kind of have to move yourself towards like being an architect rather than just driving things personally. And probably there is a practical aspect to that as well, because like every organization has a limited amount of collective energy. Like, and if the leader occupies most of space, there is a little room left for the other people as well. So I was starting thinking like how to build effective systems, like, and especially across different regions, like how would information flow, how to empower the right people to make the decision just to move things faster. And I made the decision just to withdraw myself like from many things. And I moved myself to the other side of the building from my team, just because I think you can only describe the system from the outside. So that's when the most important shift for me happened, because and it's kind of like uncomfortable probably like for every leader to realize that to scale the system truly, so you need to change from like powerful personal actions like towards building the system that can outperform your personal capacities, right?
That's really interesting.
This is a very interesting one, because I did exactly the opposite.
Right?
So I agree with the architecture building and removing yourself to reflect and to view it from the outside. But I did exactly the opposite in regards to I'm sitting in the middle of the org, because my previous boss was kind of locked away into a kind of glass room. And the first thing I did when I took over, I turned that room into a meeting room, because meeting rooms are obviously never enough in the building. So, and I placed myself right in the middle in order to be approachable, being kind of other people see how I interact, how I work. So I did exactly the opposite. However, to your point, I really felt that this is obviously energy draining, and you need to then find different times in your calendar where you can do a bit of the
strategic thinking.
Exactly. But it's an interesting one, yeah.
But it's the point, it's different paths, isn't it? It's, doing it in different ways, and you can lead in these different ways and still be really successful. So, Juliane, you talked about the sort of the people around you as being a big part of your experience. How did they help you? What did they do to support you?
I think there are two main people that have shaped my career. So there is, on the one hand, my mentor. So very, very early in my career, I got partnered with a mentor, and she was good in the things that I wanted to grow stronger into. So what she did, she made time for me on a regular basis in order to challenge my thinking, to make me reflect on certain things. And really she taught me some very valuable lessons that I'm kind of applying every day. For example, one is that she said, Juliane, every day when you're coming into the office, look at your calendar and then cancel the meeting in your calendar for today that is kind of the least value adding, in order to make more space for the things that really matter. And I really try to follow that, for example. And the other person was my boss back then as a sponsor. So she challenged my thinking as a mentor. He was a sponsor opening the doors. And basically there were three things that he has been doing constantly. First, he brought more visibility to the things that I've done. Secondly, he put me in front of senior leadership in order to help me getting the connections and establishing kind of trustworthiness and reliability. And third, he trusted me with things where I have not yet a good kind of a track record or experience in, so I could prove myself, right? And this powerful combination of the mentor and the sponsor was kind of really what helped me a lot throughout my career.
Yeah, did you go out and seek these two people, or did they come to you? How did that work?
I mean, my boss came to me, right? So I was obviously appointed to him, but the mentor, he suggested actually. So, yeah.
I think it's a really important point that you have a male sponsor, a male ally, because I think we wanted to open up this room today to men as well, because we feel that actually is a really important part of the conversation. They are in the rooms that we want to be in. They're leading the way in that way. So for them to be able to be sponsors and open the door for females and women to step into the room is really important, and we sort of want them to be here so that they can hear that we need that too. So. What about you, Irene? Have you had an experience of a mentor or a sponsor or both?
Yeah, to be honest, I think like now there is a really strong narrative like about building safe spaces in the organization, about like mentorship and sponsorship. And I'm a mentor myself, and I think it's really valuable like when you can have like impact on someone's career, like in particular turning points. But at the same time, I think like when it comes to leadership at scale, so it's a lot about like building resilience and like this strength of character, which can only be built by facing the uncertainty, challenges, and stress, like without collapsing internally. So, yeah, I think in general, like life probably is all about challenge and our ability, like to process and to deal with those challenges. And like, it's in this way, it's just a very natural part. It's like, it becomes a computer game, like in a way, so you kind of like level up step by step. So yeah, as for me, like personally, I didn't have like any official like mentors like throughout my career, but probably like when I just started my way in fintech, so there was just one person who just very much believed in me. And that was a very, very powerful thing for me, just to feel this like boost of confidence, because I was just learning a lot. I was just working. I was just going through many things myself. But yeah, I think it's just this kind of confidence in you, like especially when you're just starting. So this is very important. Yeah. But now I would say like I'm very lucky to have a very strong support system at Unlimit. And yes, now I don't know. I'm very lucky to attract and just to retain people who work with me like side by side, like for the past 5 and 6 years, and like some of them they're watching us now. So yeah, I think it's kind of great to create this kind of environment in the organization, but it hasn't always been like that. So initially, like when we started. So it was completely different, I think, culture and an organization. So yeah, we are just contributing day by day towards building what we want.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, the culture has changed as you sort of progressed yourself. Juliane, have you felt that in HelloFresh? It's there been a culture shift? Can you see as being the only CEO, female CEO, or can you see it coming?
I would love to see it coming. It is slow, right? So... but it is coming, right? HelloFresh is a global company, so we have a diverse backgrounds. We have over 90 nations working at the headquarters in Berlin. So, and in leadership, especially more senior leadership, you have different cultural components into that, but you are not having the diversity yet on multiple dimensions. And this is what I would like to see changing, because we have a lot of very strong female leaders in the second, third, fourth row. And I want them to to progress and to become really first row, because this is then what is making the difference and also the visible difference for the workforce.
Well, that's it. And once they see, I think, women, in the pipeline can see that there are women at the top and they're succeeding and it's possible, then it gives them that confidence that they can make those steps forward and do all of those things. And our final question then, what if you had a piece of advice for the women, who want to be in senior leadership but don't feel that they're ready or they're not quite there yet, what piece of advice would you give them? Irene, start with you.
I think it's just to find a safe environment to lead at first, because I think it's kind of like a vicious circle, because we have a kind of image of ourselves, so which drives our behavior and then actions, and we have the outcomes which supports this image of ourselves. So it's important just to break this chain, and to find the environment where you can actually start doing things differently. So in my case, probably yes, I had a lot of leadership development in one NGO during my student years. So it was crazy time. I was 18 and I was leading a team of 20 people. We were organizing very massive events, and I was hiring and firing people without even paying them a salary. So I think that was kind of a starting point for me. And it's important, if you don't have it yet, but just to find the area where you can just start acting differently and just take initiative and to lead. And then you will see how the reality matches your expectations.
And Juliane, what about you? What's your piece of advice to the women in the room?
I'm not sure whether there is such a thing like readiness in leadership, because from my experience, you're never ready in theory, right? Because it mostly, or to me at least, it happens, the real growth happened when you're in the leadership role. And so whenever one of my mentees or someone in the org says to me, I'm not sure if I'm ready, I would say, don't worry too much, jump into it, because you learn much stronger and your learning curve is much steeper when you're in the role. And then just figure out what Irene said, your supporting system, right? Because it is in a given moment, then get the people that support you through that moment, but your learning curve will be so much steeper. So I would always argue, just go for it and then learn as you go. And if you fail, then you stand up again, try it again. But this would be my advice.
Yeah, absolutely. Just go for it and see what happens next, right? Well, thank you so much to both of you. We've just had two brilliant stories of determination, resilience, creativity, and that power of nurturing the relationships around you, whether that's for yourself or within the company. And all of those skills and qualities exist in your workplaces right now. They probably are sat right next to you. So my final ask of the day is to think, what is one thing you could change in your workplace experience to make sure that all of these skills don't go to waste? So thank you very much, and go and find some Guinness. I think there's some waiting outside for you. Okay.